Welcome back to the channel. I am going to be diving into one of the most relevant subjects that is out there right now, which is luxury presence. Today, I have done two things that I think are going to be valuable to all of those out there trying to evaluate whether or not luxury presence is the vendor that you want to use, what you can expect. So first and foremost, I used AI to go ahead and identify all the top questions that are being asked by you, the real estate agents, about luxury presence. And I'm going to answer them in no particular order. It's cost and ownership. What's the total cost? What can you expect? What does ownership mean? SEO and lead generation. Will my site actually rank on Google? What does that mean? It's expensive. Will it get any prime terms? Technical features and integration. Can it go and get involved with my CRM? Authenticacy and support. Some agents report onboarding. So I'm going to get into all of that with the knowledge that I have available to me. Once again, while I am a longtime vet in this particular field, I do not pretend to know everything. This is not my company. I have done some work with them in the past, but and I know them to be a fairly good, fairly determined group of mostly young men, or at least the ones that I met. I have no idea. They've got like 500 employees, so I'm sure it's a lot more than that now. But the people that I knew and met were amazing at the time that I met them. But that doesn't mean, by the way, that necessarily that you can keep a hold of the kind of tiger that they're trying to keep a hold of. In other words, they're growing very, very fast, by far and away faster, which is why I've covered them so often. And it's extremely, extremely difficult to scale successfully without just screwing a lot of your customers along the way, which, by the way, is a problem that Agent Image had while I was there. So it's difficult in the business that we're in, being able to say I'm going to 2 or 3 times my business and somehow scale my staff to match. Now, it's possible that Luxury Presence with some of its AI solutions has licked that. It's also possible that they think that they've licked it and maybe they haven't. One way or the other, we're going to find out today. All right, behind me, you've got the dashboard. I'm going to reveal it. I'm going to spend a lot of extra time on the AI and SEO parts of this review. We're quickly rebranding ourselves to an AI ranking first company with SEO as a secondary secondary categoric area of expertise. To be honest, after 9 years of pretty much being one of the leaders in the space, it's pretty weird for me to change my language, but there's no doubt that if all of you are asking the question, where is search going? It's already gone to AI related search. And now what we're left with is a couple categories that are untouched, such as hyperlocal and video SEO, all of which are still being done more through traditional search mechanisms. And then you've got AI search, which is 75% of search that affects real estate agents, really. All right, and it's important that you know that, because as I talk about this subject, luxury presence, the dashboard, walking you through what the back end of a website looks like, and I may spend a second on the front end. If you don't know what a luxury presence website looks like, there are so many examples that I shouldn't have to walk you through. And I will summarize it by saying they're very rock solid branding and appearance website. Their portfolio pages are still excellent. Their pricing is in line with what you can get other places. I still have a lot of issues with the way the design affects SEO. I'm on record having said that many different times in many different places. But ultimately, they are having the same problem that everybody has, which is trying to match your design aesthetic for what luxury is supposed to be and what is good user UX and UI for SEO. And I'll try to explain that a little bit to all of you more in detail now that we've got a good demo site. All right, without any further ado, here we go. All right, so what we have here is the back end of a site, right? So everybody logs into Luxury Presence, first of all, to access this. You have AI sites on the right, or AI tools. These are kind of like very quick click property sites. I'll put it simply, they've got a 45-second video in each one of these segments, which I, again, have been on record many times saying it's the only real way to run a tool like this. You have to give realtors something that they can understand in under a minute. Follow Up Boss is an excellent, excellent example of a service that did very well by it. Luxury Presence seems to have done the same thing. I can't tell you how much I am a fan of the general idea of keeping it short and sweet. One-click property sites, probably one of the most valuable elements of
Impress
this
sellers and
entire
attract buyers with
toolkit, in my opinion. Being able to one-click a property site and then advertise it would be one of the few ways that I could think of monetizing this platform. It's not passive and it has nothing to do with related to other marketing. It's a great tool to use with remarketing, retargeting campaigns, other forms of paid advertising where you're getting in front of your current audience and then making sure that your existing clients feel properly represented. That's how you would use this, and it's a staggeringly good tool for doing that. It's obvious to me that Luxury Presence has been following along with me because they've gone out of their way to create a listing presentation element in the back end of their website. I think this is, again, like if you're going to ask me, like this has tremendous value. I have been saying that these sites are designed to be listing presentation sites as long as I have been, that they've been around. Okay, you choose a template, and now when somebody comes to your site, you have a presentation on an iPad or a YouTube, and you can create a presentation around it. I was talking to a luxury agent the other day, and it was funny because he didn't seem to have a set listing presentation. I've been in sales for 35 years. I've and a lot of it in call centers and it's places where you always have a presentation, canned presentation to start with. You riff off that for sure, but you know exactly what you're going to say. You have your series of things. Even with this, with what I do now, I'm a founder and I still practice, drill, and rehearse. I guess it was just programmed into my head after 35 years of being in sales. So it's hard for me to imagine not having or being able to control a presentation. But if you are a person that understands basically what you're going to say, like you walk through the door, relationship building, relationship building, relationship building. Here is the meat of my presentation. These are the things I can offer. Boy, oh boy, you can't assume that somebody is going to proactively look at your media or your branding. Maybe they found you that way, maybe they didn't. Maybe they were referred, which is still quite common. Maybe they're a second or third customer, which you didn't have a website the first time that you did business. The list of examples goes on. You need to show them, you need to proactively pitch them on how awesome you are. And this is a great way to leverage what could be a very expensive tool, and generally is, by the way. Like when you start saying if you spend a few $1,000s to buy the site and you're at $1,200 to $2,500 to market the site, that's expensive. By every measurement that there is, that's expensive. So if you're spending $12,000 to $24,000 a year and you have no way of understanding how you're going to monetize that, I'm not sure. I wouldn't do it. That's the best way I could put it. But that's not to say that there's not avenues here which are far better represented than I expected them to be. And then last but not least, you have a digital CMA. And this right here is somewhere where I have oh, did I get to the right? I hopefully got to the right place. Listen, I have a big belief in one of the most valuable forms of inbound marketing is always the marketing report that you yourself do and then present to your clients. Now, whether or not you use branding tools to help package and organize that marketing report, anything that is a market report that you can send people to, engage existing customers with, as long as you have an understanding of your market. I am always just stupefied by how many agents don't understand that one of your best ways to update a list, to keep in touch with people, to keep yourself right in front of the audience at large, is simply to get used to talking about your market once every 30 days and sending that out to people. Will everybody read it or watch it? No. Maybe 50 to 60 of your most active, engaged clients per month. But here's a crazy thing that most people don't know about professional sales. For most of us, most professional salespeople, your whole entire career is based around 100 good clients. It doesn't matter whether you're in business to business services or whether you're just a guy on the phone, it's 100 good clients. So if you're getting in front of 60, you're doing incredibly well. So, and you could use this as a tool. Every single one of these things I give like between a 7 and 10. All of them in the hands of a professional salesperson would be ways for you to proactively make ROI. It would depend on what you're spending per month. Now, that's the easy low-hanging fruit here, okay? We start getting into stuff that's a little rougher for me to have an even hand with. Okay, these are your contacts. Basically, in terms of what's possible here, assigned to notes. Now, they're probably going to go with some kind of automation here. But in terms of what you're getting, this is insanely basic. I doubt anybody uses it. So it might as well not be here. I think they know that, and they're headed in the direction of doing a CRM. It's very unlikely that Go High Level or just about, or sorry, that Luxury Presence or anybody's going to touch Go High Level. Go High Level has 2,000 integrations natively. You can get data communicating to any platform using Go High Level. You own and control the data, which you will not if you decide to use the Luxury Presence CRM. You're once again going to sign away a certain amount of rights, access, or at least the comprehension that they may make a mistake with your data and you can't hold them liable. These are all bad pieces of news for you as a real estate agent. It is a data land grab right now. And anybody that's been a professional holding a license for a couple of years probably knows that. You've seen the news. It's a data land grab. Don't let anybody else grab your data. Take control of it yourself. If we have customized version of Go High Level, which means you do own and control your data, but we design the CRM experience. So it's a partnership between us and them, but you are still in control. It's very similar to building a website on WordPress. If you're interested in anything I just said about CRMs, there will be a link to my calendar. Either schedule a call or there will be some place to email, and you can email and ask questions and see what it takes. CRMs are inexpensive and obviously a very valuable part of your toolkit. Content. Once again, we're just gonna block this out. I'm gonna make it as easy as possible for my team here. This is agents, teams, blog posts, developments. All right, so we're going to take a look at this through the eyes of SEO. So this has been written by AI, and just like AI, and by the way, I happen to know for a fact that this particular client account isn't doing the recommended steps with AI. Now, here's what the recommendation is, and I have no idea if Luxury Presence hands this out to their clients or not. Let's assume for the moment that they do. You must change. This cannot be stuff that you post automatically to your site. Okay, it never should be. Google themselves. I've seen a lot of people, including one of the leaders in the SEO team, basically saying, well, you know, content isn't being penalized by AI right now. I'm going to say, what are Spam Brain's future plans in terms of using it entirely to produce blog content? Let's just keep it super specific. SpamBrain is the tool that is out there reading websites and checking for Google. SpamBrain is Google's AI-powered tool, spam prevention system designed to identify and neutralize content that violates search policies, including, by the way, AI-generated content intended solely to manipulate rankings. Now, here's the problem with what is going on over at Luxury Presence. I want you to read this very carefully because I have seen their leadership on record saying that they don't believe that AI content is being penalized. It was an older video that I watched. It was the head of their SEO team and it was a year old. Maybe he's changed. I don't know, but I will say that I did absolutely see that video. So SpamBrain is absolutely penalizing AI generated content solely for the purpose of ranking in the search engines. Now, if you're using AI ranking from Luxury Presence, whoops, that's not Luxury Presence, from Luxury Presence, and you have been told that what you're paying is to rank in the search engines, and you are not touching these blog posts, guess what that means? It means that you are now absolutely positively on the wrong end of the spam policy at Google. The only way to get around it, and I'm going to solve this problem for Luxury Presence, okay? I'm going to fix it. I'm not even going to bother to beat the drum and say it's wrong. I'm going to tell you all how to fix it. Spam is usually identified as, number one, 10 to 20% of this should be original, but the number one important thing is that this content be useful to the audience. And I'll show you a couple of problems that would indicate to anybody who knows anything about AI that this was written by AI. Right here, last question. What should I budget for beyond the purchase price near the harbor? Now, that is a specific question demanding a certain answer. Plan for HOA dues and condos or townhomes. There is no specific answer. AI didn't give it. They knew that the world at large is looking for the specific answer. but they don't have the specific answer, so they pop the question on your site and then promptly don't give a valid answer right underneath it. This is a prime opportunity to edit this and give a range of numbers if you happen to know them. And if you don't, go out and figure it out. And you should run through here and find 5 or 6 other examples of information like that. And you will, because it was written by AI. And you go, this is how I fix this. It's stuff where you're going to be valuable to the audience. And if you did all of that, you would be doing fairly well. It would appear that you can only do images here, which is a shame. If you could do video, it would be a lot better, but they probably limit the amount of memory that you can throw onto the platform, which is a huge issue, but never mind. I'm not going to get into that right now. If that happens to be true, major negative marks for luxury presence. You've got to use video in today's world to do lead generation. So if they're not allowing for it, let's do this. It looks like you could probably link it. And if you could link it and send it to another site, that would work just fine. So another way that I would get unique content on here is do a mechanical URL for a YouTube video, throw it in here, and then I would do a post commenting on it, and that might get you around all. You could at least, if ever anybody tried to contact you from the spam prevention team over at Google, which is very unlikely, but it is not impossible. There's 24,000 of you now using this platform, and if you're thinking about using it, you should know this. It's possible, not likely. I'd say 1 in 1,000 as far as a chance is concerned. Very, very unlikely. But if for some reason they did, if you had a link on here that was to a unique and original video trying to be helpful, trying to answer some of these questions, you'd almost assuredly walk away at a most with a wrist slap. Now, what could happen on the worst side? An egregious, there's 2 possibilities. If luxury presence, who is getting bigger than they probably ever planned on getting, doesn't wrap up and protect their SEO by becoming much more in line with Google's actual guidelines, they are risking having every single one of their websites blacklisted. It's unlikely, except when you get big enough to be considered a spam farm, okay, which unfortunately for them, they're damn close. It's what's called a million pages of, here, I'll show you all. Okay. So Google has specific rules and enforcement mechanisms in place. You could see the question. I know SpamBrain is in place to monitor and prevent AI manipulation of the search engines. Is there a rule in place for large users of solely AI-driven content? Yes, Google has specific rules and enforcement mechanisms in place targeting large-scale solely AI-driven content. While SpamBrain helps identify spam, Google's overarching policy addresses this under the term scaled content abuse. Google's rule explicitly bans the use of automation, including AI, to generate low quality or unoriginal content at scale, with the primary purpose of manipulating the search engines. It does not matter how the content is created, AI, human, or mixed. If the content is produced in high volume to manipulate search rankings, it's considered a violation. Definition of abuse. This is tricky, right? Tricky. Somewhere down some thread that I read, I think that any organization, team, or company that is responsible for 1 million+ pages is very much in danger of falling afoul this policy. And guess what? With 24,000 sites, and 1 million pages is not a month, it's like a year or something like that, just 1 million pages in general. So we're getting to the point where luxury presence is actually almost big enough to trigger this particular policy. And I think you guys should know. And the way that you address this without worrying about whatever luxury presence is doing and without people feeling like I'm getting up their grill, I don't intend to. I just want to give everybody the proper pros and cons about using a platform before they engage with it, or if you do own it, like what should people be telling you? And I'm going to tell you, you can do great things with this platform. You must, however, to protect yourself and your own personal reputation with Google is, in my opinion, is make sure that you are editing and every single one of these posts by 10 to 15%. You should do that anyway, honest to God. Why would you let a machine write your content? All it's doing is regurgitating stuff that's already out there. But barring that judgment, just let's say you're super busy and you don't want to ever touch a website. God knows I have tons of those clients. Fine. Then maybe this isn't the platform for you, if that's the case. This is not really potentially a solution. It could be a big problem for you over time. Developments. Okay, no developments, neighborhoods. So everything's a predefined landing page with a preset amount of content on that landing page, along with hand-built maps, which I like. I like these pages, but there is not enough room in here to make a really dynamic page to really probably rank, not for what is usually a higher bar. So let's just say take Rancho Santa Margarita as an example. We're just gonna take that keyword, which by the way, you guys can see here, I'm in the neighborhood page. Now I'm gonna talk to you like I'm an SEO expert, which I am. When somebody puts in this page and slaps it on the website, what you're doing is you're targeting this semantically as like the subject and basically the keyword. It's a little more complex than that these days, but essentially they're saying the generalized idea is you want to talk about Rancho Santa Margarita. Now, Google kind of views all subjects in big, broad sense, like there's a tier, a seed at the very, very height of it. So then we go to Keyword Explorer, and we're just going to throw in, and we're using Ahrefs, which is a search tool. Anybody who's in SEO would be familiar with it. So we go here. So surprisingly, and I was wrong, Rancho Santa Margarita, that term has a keyword difficulty of 2 out of 100. So it's literally a very, 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 very low competition keyword. That's utterly fantastic. So maybe a page built by this luxury presence engine might actually rank for it. Why am I saying that? Well, generally speaking, a 2, this tool looks at how many backlinks that you have coming into a page like this. This is the top page on Rancho Santa Margarita, California. It's Wikipedia, no surprise. So we go down here and we look at Wikipedia. That's this page. This is the #1 page in the internet when it comes to the keyword Rancho Santa Margarita. So now we look at something called backlinks, which is votes from other websites. If somebody lists your website address on a separate site and sends it to you, it's considered a vote. When you look at how many domains are doing that, it's 229. And they've done it 1,936 times because sometimes a single domain can vote multiple times for the same page. So the DR, the domain authority of Wikipedia, is 97. It makes it one of the most authoritative websites on the entire internet. Very, very good. When you look at this and you go, am I going to compete with Wikipedia? No. But it is saying it's a 2, so why would it say it's a 2? It's saying it's really easy to get into the top 10. Well, this is #1. Top 10, yes. #1, no. You go down the page a bit, and what you start to discover is this is a social media site that mentions Rancho Santa Margarita. It's decent. You know what? I disagree with Ahrefs' assessment. Those all look to be pretty competitive pages. These all look to be pretty competitive pages, but backlinks like this is Realtor.com, 4 backlinks. Why, you might ask, would it rank? Well, it's Realtor.com. They have a domain authority of 91. I'm hoping you're seeing what I'm saying. It's like the way that Google serves up people is how authoritative do they think your website is? That plays a very big role into what happens with your pages. Now, there is a factor that overwhelms authority, which is user behavior signals. Okay, so if you have really good user behavior, you can actually overcome a 97. But unfortunately for all of us, Wikipedia has both great user behavior, great domain authority, great page authority. They're always going to rank for this term. It'd be a miracle if somebody could do something different. What they could do is maybe a video and maybe have it be really popular. Maybe they would get some kind of equivalent placement as this. Easy to beat. Realtor.com and some of these other sites. I've done it many times. It doesn't take hard anymore to bake more user behavior signals into like a page on a website because it's such a prolifically oversaturated market. In other words, Redfin and all the other amazing providers out there that do search marketing, there's so many of them. They're all good. They're all similar. There's tons and tons of them. So a single person making a single video about Rancho Santa Margarita that covers different ground than the 9 major search platforms has a very good chance of overwhelming the search engines with how much people gravitate to it because it'll be unique in a field of the same, even though all of the same is really good and probably better than whatever you could put up. That is hopefully I didn't lose all of you. And the reason I covered that is because honestly, whether you're targeting this page and what you're trying to do on the page has a lot to do with user behavior. And what I've noticed about Luxury Presence's pages is they are not all that unique. They don't contain a lot of really compelling data, and they're not going to get a lot of clicks, which means that from a user perspective, these are all very low value. They're very unlikely to get any ranking ever. Press releases, none. Properties, we got a few there. Testimonials, awesome. Just a note on the section of testimonials. Boy, oh boy, is this being done wrong for locals? Now, the idea of using this as a listing presentation tool as it relates to testimonials is excellent. Okay, you have them on the site. When you're in the presence of a customer and you've got your iPad in your hand, there's certainly an added sense of credibility and people question you less. Boy, oh boy, is it different though if you're not in the room. If you're not in the room, they're going to check your reviews. And here's a thing that I have explained many times, and I'm going to explain once more. People put a lot more value in the brand identity of Google than they do of you. In other words, put much more simply, they simply don't trust you as much as they trust Google. And you shouldn't expect them to. That's just simply not going to happen. So when we go to our sites, like one of our sites that we built, one of the ways that we leverage, for two different reasons, by the way, we end up leveraging reviews not only for the idea of social proof and conversion on the site, which that is very important, but much more importantly, reviews are used as measurement systems for AI, they're used as measurement systems for Google, but guess what? All those tools are programmed not to read your website testimonials as valid. They will, however, read your Google profile testimonials as valid. So the way that we do it is present them, but there's a link which can be crawled by the spiders and crawled by the humans that takes you to the profile. And now we get into, and I don't like the fact that it doesn't jump into the reviews. I'm straight with you. So I don't think that our solution is perfect. We have a little more work to do. I would rather see this pop-up happen, but development is a pain and we are not 500 people. But this is where you want to go. This is what the search engines want to see, and most humans want to see this too. We want it on your Google profile, not on your website, unless it's going to be a duplication of what's on your website. So you could have it there for redundancies. But if you're trying to get a marketing result, which is what Luxury Presence is saying they're trying to do, this is not the way to do it. This is for hyperlocal though. This little cube right over here is one of the most popular topics in all of real estate. Thankfully, Luxury Presence doesn't target it, because if they did, I'd have to push back really hard. Their websites are not at all built well for hyperlocal, for this. Okay, they can be a tool. They're about, on a scale of 1 to 10, they're a 5 or a 6. They're way better than nothing. So don't get me wrong, but they don't provide all of the support pieces that you're looking for. Like, there is some lifestyle stuff here. Okay, maybe a 7, maybe a 7 of 10, but definitely not a 10 of 10. They make some major mistakes that would impact your local in such a way that if somebody else did it right, you would never win against them. I guess is the best way to put it. But if you're up against nobody, then this is great. You'll do fine. And we can do fine, by the way. We can use Luxury Presence websites as long as the competition isn't too steep and nobody has a really lifestyle-focused website with tons of good local information on it that drives people to local events and has other businesses putting their names inside directories on their websites, because that person is going to dominate hyperlocal. And a lot of these luxury sites are being used, especially with the direction that Luxury Presence is going, they're being used by people who want to put their stuff on autopilot. Nothing wrong if that's you. Really, seriously. I get it. I understand how complicated this all is. But at the same time, the people who aren't on autopilot are going to beat you every day of the week. If branding, and that includes those of you who are spending $2,500 a month with Luxury Presence. If hyperlocal was part of your objectives, all of those of you in Texas, all of you in the busier cities in Florida, Palm Beach County, you guys know where they are. Certain parts of Arizona, certain parts of the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, certain parts of California, any place that's tech forward, that has big tech companies in it, or close to it, Menlo Park, I can go on and on. You are going to get trounced if all you're doing is putting up one of these sites and then thinking that it's going to rank you by itself. Again, if you own a Luxury Presence website and you're trying to stick with them because they do a thing very, very well, I'm going to say what you could do is see if there is some way for them to connect your testimonials to the site. I have no idea if they can or not. I'm just saying maybe that would be a solution. If that isn't a solution, then I would just look at your competitors. Honestly, I'm going to plug myself. Schedule a call with me or one of my teams. We'll try to run an audit for you and see where your competition is at. There's no way for me to answer this without understanding where everybody is in an individual marketplace. But I'm just going to say, if you know that you're in a really competitive marketplace and you're trying to ask yourself the question, remember guys, I am looking at cost and efficiency. Remember, I told you at the very beginning of this brand identity, what are the most common questions? So it's networking, does the SEO work, so on and so forth. All the questions that are being asked, by the way, even by this, are somewhat wrong. You really just want to ask, is it going to make me more than I spend? And the answer is, if you leverage this tool as a tool, like a hammer, and you know how to use a hammer, the answer is absolutely. If you don't know how to use a hammer and you're thinking that the hammer is going to float through the air and nail the nails into the wall all by itself without you ever touching it, no, I don't think so, is my honest opinion. But then again, so that I don't get myself into the team over at Luxury Presence, I would say the same thing about my own services. So that we're clear, okay? There's really not that many fire and forget lead generation providers that just do everything for you and you have to do nothing and you're just going to magically wake up and get calls. And the ones that do it are Realtor and Zillow, and they'll take 50% of your deal in some cases to do it. So if you're willing to give up that kind of your commission and you don't want to do any work whatsoever, call those guys. They're in business because of you. Call them up and they'll do everything I just mentioned. They'll call your lead, they'll warm it up for you, they'll make sure it's a real lead, and they'll just send you the call and you can do what you want. No marketing, just selling, which is honestly called being an employee. And there's nothing wrong with that. I have a lot of them, and I am perfectly content to take advantage of other people's work if they want to give it to me. If they don't want to do extra work, I don't blame them. I don't blame you. But you have to understand that smart entrepreneurs are charging you for the privilege of making everything easy. And as long as you're okay with that, great. Listing feeds, your feeds, discover. Okay, so you can, I guess, check in with other agents. Interesting. Discover appears to be feeds where you can list that you can feed things in from other vendors and providers. I would imagine that there's a couple of you out there that would get value out of this. I think it's an extremely specific thing. I think it's cool. I'm glad it's here. I don't think it has anything at all to do with ROI. If you're going to build a brand, and there's 155 pages of this, so there's obviously a lot. If you're just trying to create an automated tool that reads and feels like a newspaper or something that you've had some kind of like control over, this seems to be the direction that Luxury Presence is going. And there's definitely a spot in the industry for that. I would just like everybody to understand what they're really buying, though. That's my only thing with like reviewing them over and over again and other people is I have had so many calls where people are obviously not aware of what they're buying, whether that be a Luxury Presence problem or the customer problem or a combination of the two. It's irrelevant. Like, you should just understand what you're getting. There is definitely a place for this kind of tool in most people's toolkits, most luxury agents. It's a great tool. It looks like it's getting better too. So these are your presentations. So once again, this is probably something you can design. I'm not going to dig through it, but it would seem logical to say I can custom design this, make a presentation, and probably use it as part of a listing presentation, which is super cool. Analytics. We get to see where our keywords are coming from. I love that. Weekly, monthly, quarterly. In this particular case, most of the recognition is coming from the agent's name, which is always something that I found on these sites. This particular case study has been involved with SEO for about a year. So what you're looking at is a year result. This is an SEO professional. While I can say this is not going to get him any ROI, here is getting some kind of recognition. It cannot be said that their SEO is resultless. It's not going to generate much ROI except for the stuff that might be connected to the agent's own name, and then he gets recognized. But there's probably about 4 other places that's true. Most likely the agent's name would trigger the Zillow profile, Instagram profile, Facebook profile, and numerous other ways that somebody could find his name and his number. I doubt he actually needs a website to accomplish that for him. The value in that category, very low. There's blog posts, cool. Optimizations. What they're saying is optimizations is essentially changing title tags, and it take 5 minutes if it was a human. I doubt it's a human. It's probably automated. Whatever you're spending, in this case, I happen to know that the budget's about $500 a month. Getting this, you're getting AI blog posts. The value for this money is incredibly low. Straight talk. There's very little human being interaction here, which is how I think the Luxury Presence is fueling their growth. And I have all the respect and admiration for them. I'm hoping that all of you realize that just coming through here, You have to have backlinking. You have to have other tools in place to build up domain authority. You have to have a lot of different signals being sent into a site for AI or for SEO in order for you to rank. AI signals, while different, are very, very important, and many of them are external to the site. So if you are not seeing external work being done on the site, you can be fairly sure nobody's ranking for AI. Our AI ranking service, which we just launched on January 6th, is 80% external signals and 20% something related to a site or like a platformic destination. You really cannot think that this is going to do much for you except provide maybe some value when people arrive at the site. And if you're doing nothing, which this client is in that case, like he's not editing any of this, he's not even looking at any of it. So he doesn't know what it's saying. That is the very definition of what's called spun content. That is just content that's being written for the search engines. So because they are trying to aim it at the search engine. It is proven back here in the website. This is why I say this is a very dynamite kind of combination. Just be aware of that. You know, there's pros and cons, and again, any individual one site probably not going to run up against a problem. However, all of you who've been in real estate are going to know exactly what I'm talking about when I say the following. You can't be sure that your malicious competitor won't eventually call and report you. Every luxury realtor watching this is going to know what I'm talking about in almost any market. And if you happen to be in New York, Florida, or California, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You have to be a little cautious. I am going to say that on a scale of 1 to 10, as long as you understood what the tool was, good God, they're doing some cool things. As long as you understood what the risk was here, or you walked in with your eyes wide open and said, I'm gonna edit and audit and change, and you know, if indeed you can add a video, I'm gonna add a video to every one of these posts. Good Lord, I would put it down at like a 0.05% chance that you'd ever run into a serious problem. Even if you got, you know, flagged by the spam team, it would probably fix itself. Now, here's an issue. Google does generally tend to, and I'm going to show you guys a case study, including the team over at Luxury Presence, because they're going to think I'm overblowing this. Okay, so what you're looking at right now is a site that the rumor is it was established by 2 Google engineers. Now, whether or not they sold it or what happened to it, I do not know, but I do know that that was the way they built it. Now, I am not going to call them out on this video. I'm going to say that for 10 straight years, they were doing something that we in my industry call black hat. That is blatantly against Google's rules, designed only to manipulate the search engines. And they got away with it. They did really, really well for a really long time. Now we come up, here we are 10 years later. This site used to get thousands upon thousands upon thousands of visitors to it. And if we go back far enough, you can see this is 2018. And let me just, okay, this is a better representation. This was a while back. Now, I have no way of knowing or proving, but there's 2 things that probably happened. Either 1, they received a penalty for the black hat thing that I referenced, or 2, the algorithm caught up with what was an egregious hack. Maybe they figured something out as it related to their domain authority or their backlinking or how many referring domains they didn't have. What I do know is that one way or the other, if I remember correctly, over 5 years ago, these numbers were even higher. So over time, they've lost 80% of their traffic. I have found that over time, if you say any particular rule that you're following is really not in line with what Google wants, maybe not today and maybe not tomorrow, but they generally kind of figure out how to correct that problem. They have billions of dollars. You don't. Your hack might work today. It will not work forever. And if you get used to the nectar of that hack, you will eventually pay a pretty gosh darn steep price. My opinion has always been just do it right the first time around. It's harder, yes, but if you get used to doing it the right way, it's easier to do it the right way. What Google wants is interesting, user-friendly information, usually backed up by your knowledge and your experience inside a marketplace. All of that is cured by the video that I mentioned. As long as you can show some kind of nod to, I want to be useful, I don't think that even if you did get flagged that it would stick, because everybody, expertise, authority, and trust, and actually there's another one, and I've experienced, expertise, authority, and trust, EEAT. This is what Google is looking for. Now, I'm going to say the following. In terms of CRM integrations, I don't know what the answer to that is. It's a common question. In terms of cost, you don't own this site, okay? You never will. You don't own it in any way, shape, or form. I understand that Luxury Presence is in the process of building out a CRM. That is from their own press release that I read, so I have no more knowledge than you do. It's supposed to be true. I understand that their direction is to continue to go in this highly automated AI way. If I had one thing to say is that while I've not watched all their content, I've watched hours and hours of Malte, and I've watched their two SEO guys, and I've watched a lot of their social people, and I've watched a lot of their podcasts. And I can honestly say that I don't oftentimes see them dropping the right digital technical advice from the perspective of how high on the mountain they are in terms of digital leadership. It's kind of a dangerous place to be. If you have the voice of the entire industry connected to you, you should probably be giving out the best possible, most educated advice on each one of these topics in order to prevent fallout in the future. And you certainly should be building your products that way. Now, for those of you who are listening, to summarize this all up, I don't think that there is a world in which the higher end of value has been established, not from an ROI perspective. If you are a local agent who doesn't want to touch a website, who has a strong luxury presence, and you are trying to use a tool that does as much as possible for you, and you have an interest in making sure that your extremely luxury clients, like that you can just go and knock their socks off, luxury presence remains the solution, not a solution, the solution. They blow the doors off Agent Image, they blow the doors off me, they blow the doors off everybody. However, if you're looking for a proper SEO partner, hyperlocal results, phone calls generated off website, something you own, something you control, this is absolutely the wrong way to go. It's just not designed or built for any of those solutions. I don't see them changing their path now to try to accommodate that marketplace. If you want to own and control, decentralized ownership, we're the only game in town, and you need to call us right away. Like if that's your main objective. We're not going to be as sexy on the website side. We're not going to do the AI content. We're not going to have as many automated features. You are going to have to work at it. There's a lot of pros and cons about each offer, which is why it's important that, as odious as it is, that everybody take their time when they're making decisions and look at each option in front of them. There's plenty of middle options too. There's lead providers and all sorts of people. But I will say this, why does Luxury Presence keep getting to the top of my list? They're trying to do different and cool things. And I really commend the effort. I just want to make sure that if everybody's looking for an outside opinion that knows what they're talking about, what is that opinion? I want to give them a contrast. There is some stuff that you should be aware of. It's not a one-size-fits-all product, like based on your own personal needs. If you have any further questions and you're deep, deep, deep down a rabbit hole, go ahead and set an appointment with me and give me a call, especially if you're a veteran luxury agent. A lot of people have some need in the middle, and my advice to those people would be go with the lowest priced option over at Luxury Presence. Use this tool as a listing presentation tool. If you're not in the habit of tracking where you get value from your marketing spend, every single time you use this site as part of a listing presentation and anybody says a single word like, oh, that is cool, give a little bit of credit to Luxury Presence, and that's how you decide if this marketing spend is delivering you ROI. And most likely it will. If you are using this tool at all, you will most likely see a big return as long as you're putting it in the proper bucket, which is I am actively promoting it. I'm actively showing it to people. I'm actively walking out with an iPad in my bag, and I'm actively sitting down and saying, look how cool this is, and sell everybody else on the website so that it has value. And every time they go, ooh, and ah, there you go. That's a few $1,000s worth of value if you close a $3 million listing. You give about 1%. When you're looking at your tools, a website is about 20% of your marketing budget. So really, really pretty websites, really beautiful websites should be given some kind of credit in the ROI equation. But they didn't drive the lead. They didn't attract the lead. You had to send the lead there. So if you end up getting a call, you have to ask what drove the call. Great reviews, great branding, referred by somebody else. And then your website is usually a catch-all tool where it's confirming a bias that the person has, and it's your relationship to lose. Like if it's referral stuff, or if you're doing advertising and you have a really sexy, fancy car, and then you send them to your site, you are usually either confirming or denying a bias that's been generated by whatever the first touch on your media was. You want to make sure that a really nice website, at a minimum, confirms the bias. which means that if a referral drops by your website and you don't lose the referral, you give the website a 5 to 10% credit, even though your reputation drove the touch. It is not saying nothing that people do lose business because they have a bad or no website. That is true. Probably not that much, but some, 10 to 20% a year is what I would guess. It's not like it's not in your best interest to have a digital business card, even if that's all you had. And so this could be a very valuable tool. Whether or not it's the end all be all one solution that fits all marketing and sales and lead generation, I don't see the evidence of that. I'm not saying there aren't people out there. As a matter of fact, you know what? As I wrap this up, are you a luxury presence client? Do you have one of their websites? Do you have a result that you can share in the comments? I'm not looking for good or bad. I'm completely neutral here. Fantastic result, share it. Bad result, share it. Getting tons and tons of calls, definitely share it. I have not heard it, but then again, I'm only getting calls when people are probably already unhappy. So it's not fair for me to say, I haven't heard it. It's just maybe I haven't talked to the great clients yet who just are stoked and just killing it. If you're one of those people, please drop a comment so that I and the rest of the world knows that you are killing it and that this tool is one of the ones that helped you. All right, I've been Robert Newman. Peace out. Till next time. Give me a thumbs up or, not one way or the other. I appreciate your eyes on this.